Combat is the primary gameplay loop of D&D. 90% of feats, spells, magic items, and class features are geared towards it. So, why is it kind of boring? It's not always boring, of course, but in a game where you might expect 1 to 2 combat encounters per session, in a game that lasts for years, it's not hard to understand why it can be difficult to make each one meaningful and exciting. Now, there are 1,000 tiny things you can do to make combat more engaging, but I wanted a raw, ready-to-roll template that you can slap on any encounter to make it instantly memorable and exciting. No matter how simple the fight is, no matter how small scale, something to add unique twists and memorable moments. So, I made it. This is the deck of Wild Magic and Mischief, and I'm going to show you how it works and give you a template so you can take the mechanics and use them in your games. This deck is available for pre-order from a bunch of places, including Amazon, Walmart, Barnes & Noble, and my web store if you want a copy, but this video will show you how to apply the lessons within to your own games no matter what, and how to create your own cards too. This deck is a tool, but the mechanics you can apply to any game, even a game you run tonight. The premise of the deck is simple. Make wild magic and the environment characters in your game. And make them jerks. Make wild magic like that inscrutable trickster god that's always screwing with everything. Every card in this deck represents a font of wild magic, a phenomenon where the fabric of the weave cracks under the pressure of chaotic energy. When everyone rolls initiative, the GM draws a card at random from the deck, representing a wave of wild magic cascading across the battlefield. Each card has unique mechanics that transform the area and introduce a mechanical twist to that combat encounter. They also give heroes and monsters alike incredible powers to wield and terrible dangers to survive. Example, you're facing down a wolf pack, and the GM draws a card from the deck completely at random, representing a surge of wild magic energy washing over the battlefield. And they get... Ooh, a crazy one. They get the Font of Transformation. Every card in the deck has different effects, and all the mechanics are explained in this little compendium book, but I'm going to show you how they work with this example, and you can make your own. For the Font of Transformation, on initiative count 20 of every single round, all creatures are blasted with wild transmutational magic, and they have to roll 1d6. Your body then temporarily transforms depending on the number that you roll. If you get a 1, you gain hummingbird wings and can fly and hover. If you get a 2, you grow a large snail shell, which halves your movement speed but gives you half cover. You can see the full list of transformations here. These last until initiative 20 on the next round, at which point everyone rolls again. So you are fighting while constantly shape-shifting and trying to make the most of what you get. Already, that's a cool mechanical gimmick to add to an encounter, and that can be all you do if you want. That's great, but there's more. When the GM pulls a card, one monster on the battlefield of their choice gets a surge of wild magic reflecting that font's chaotic energy. This is called a monstrous adaptation. The monstrous adaptation for this font gives the creature 2 bonuses. Firstly, any boons it gets from rolling on the table last until it finishes a short rest. They don't go away at the start of the next round. This means they are cumulative, and the boss will get steadily stronger the more turns you spend in the wild magic area. Secondly, it gets a bonus to all strength and dexterity saving throws equal to the number of transformations it has. So after a few rounds, if it rolls a 3, a 4, and a 5, it'll now have a +3 to all strength and dex saves. Basically, every font creates a thematic boss for the encounter, without the GM having to do any work in advance. Don't panic though, because heroes can bend the magic of the font to their own advantage in moments of triumph or desperation. Whenever you roll a natural 1 on an attack roll, ability check, or saving throw, your moment of peril echoes outward into the weave, triggering something called a Surge of Hope. This takes the form of a temporary buff, usually a defensive benefit that ties into the font itself. The Surge of Hope for the Font of Transformations is really simple. For the next minute, instead of rolling on the transformations table, you choose 2 and gain the benefits of both. You can only trigger a Surge of Hope once per long rest. You can also trigger a Surge of Power once per long rest, which activates when you roll a natural 20 on an attack roll, ability check, or saving throw. These represent the magic of the weave bending to your will in a moment of spectacular spectacular virtuosity. Surges of power are a little bit different to a surge of hope. Yes, you still gain a thematic benefit, usually representing a burst in power. But when you activate a surge of power, you can choose to shatter the wild magic around you and draw a new card from the deck, which replaces the effects of the old one. Any monstrous adaptations or ongoing surges of hope and power from that card continue, but otherwise, its effects end. Thus, the battlefield can radically transform anytime anyone rolls a natural 20. But why would you want to do that? Well, because the monstrous adaptation that is buffing one of your enemies is uniquely tuned to that particular type of wild magic. If you're fighting a Tarrasque with a monstrous adaptation from the font of transformation, it is getting stronger and stronger every turn. But if you change the wild magic around you via a surge of power, suddenly that Tarrasque is less threatening. Yes, it still maintains any transformations it had, but it's not gaining any more. Now, the hero doesn't have to change the wild magic around them if they don't want to. Either way, they gain the surge of power effect on whatever card is currently in play. Let's say our hero does reshuffle the font of transformation, switching the weave into something new, and they draw the font of kineticism. Invigorating kinetic energy ricochets across the battlefield. All creatures' movement speeds increase by 20 feet. If a creature moves 50 feet or more on its turn, all subsequent attack rolls it makes that turn have a bonus to hit equal to its proficiency bonus. They also gain the surge of power effect from this font, Kinetic Critical. If you move at least 10 feet in a straight line before hitting a creature with an attack roll, you score a critical hit on a 19 or a 20. In addition, anytime you score a critical hit, you can take the disengage or the dodge actions as a reaction. This pairs beautifully with the font's buff to your movement speed. Suddenly you are the apex predator in this magical maelstrom. Every card in the deck does something like this, from the badass ones like the Font of Flame and the Font of Armageddon, to the really weird and bizarre ones like the Font of Falling Goblins, where a horde of goblins spawn 200 feet in the air at the start of every round before splattering to their death on the ground below, and you need to dodge them or take damage. With this deck, every encounter is unique and overflowing with flavor and new mechanics, and you can create your own cards as well. All you need to do is think of an environmental effect, an offensive buff for heroes when they trigger a surge of power that relates to that effect, a defensive buff for a surge of hope, and a buff for an enemy who is actively getting charged up with the wild magic that you've unleashed. Sometimes these effects are very simple and straightforward, like the Font of Lightning. You can probably work out what that one does. But you can really push these techniques to add little mini games to combat, like with the Font of the Rising Dragon. This bad boy spawns in kobolds every turn who just stand around chanting, and if there are too many kobolds chanting at the top of the round, they conjure a literal dragon who just attacks everybody. Do the heroes attack the main enemy, or do they take time off to strike down kobolds to ensure that nobody summons a dragon? If you are making your own cards, just be sure to scale them to your party's level. I do this by making sure the damage scales with proficiency bonus, so the same card will deal a little bit of damage at levels 1 through 4, and a lot of damage at levels 17 plus. That way, you're not going to TPK some low-level heroes, but the cards will still be very impactful for high-level ones. There's 5 cards you can just download to play with right now, link in the description, as well as a template that you can print out, write on, and cut up to make your own cards. Use them in your games to elevate even the most simple of encounters into something really crazy and memorable. If you are interested in picking up the deck of Wild Magic and Mischief, it is available right now for pre-order from all of these places and on my website, dndshorts.com. The whole deck is just $20, you can add it to your games, or it makes an amazing gift for your DM or your players for Christmas, or just because you love them. Also, remember to like and subscribe, check out other videos on the channel, and yeah, that's all I got. I'll see you next time.